Hey y'all, it's your boy Rico.
And Sam.
And we are here with the two cutest non-binary people in Austin, Corin and David, that also goes by the drag name Hentai.
So today we're doing our non-binary episode, and because Rico and I both identify as binary males, we wanted to invite a couple of our friends to kind of just talk about what being non-binary means and what the difference is between non-binary and being transgender. It's all under like the same umbrella, but there definitely are some differences.
Right. Doesn't mean you could definitely be trans and non-binary. But since we are binary, we're just gonna ask them basic one-on-one questions for those that don't know what that even means. Do you want to start off with the first question?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it.
So first question is, what does non-binary mean?
Non-binary means that you don't really necessarily vibrate with either gender in the like normal gender spectrum.
I mean, it's just kind of like binary means like the way that we've thought about gender for a long time. So like, you know, male, female, or man, woman. And non-binary is everything that is, I don't know, I think, I don't want to say spectrum, because I think when we say spectrum, we think about it as like a shade from like blue to pink. Like, we think like this is a spectrum of like you're either on one side closer to male or female, but it's much more complex.
Actually, that's funny. My therapist actually said it's more like she would refer to it as a carousel. So it's not just a line. It's like there's so many different things, and I thought
that was cool.
It's very three-dimensional, I think.
Right.
The way I think about it is like you're in like a grocery store and you have a shopping cart and you're putting different things in your shopping cart, things that you like, things that you identify with, things that like reflect who you are. And at the end of the day, you take your shopping cart up to the checkout and they check you out. And like when you're getting checked out, that's society putting labels on all the things that you like, all the things that you are, who you identify as. And a lot of those things we assign to masculine, a lot of the things we assign to feminine. And it's not like straight across the board either. Different cultures assign different, traits to masculinity, to femininity. So I don't like to think about it like that. Like I'm somewhere between, male and female. I just think about it, I guess, more abstractly.
So it's not
I like that.
Maybe it's not both, it's neither.
Yeah, I think for me, that's what I would say.
Cool. So the second question is, aren't you just androgynous?
So that's what I was saying, like, I think it kind of, like, weaves together because androgyny, and, well, at least the way I see it, androgyny is just one aspect of being non-binary, and some non-binary people are not what we would maybe describe as androgynous, whereas others maybe are. But, yeah, just, like, for me, me being non-binary means, like, exactly what Rico said, which is, like, neither. I identify, if I had to put a label on it, I would say agender. I just don't associate with gender. However, there are people who kind of do. Some people associate with both.
Some people change. Some people go back and forth.
Fluidity.
Yeah.
That's what's fun about non-binary.
Yeah.
It's kind of everything. It's everything under the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
And sometimes nothing.
So, if you do identify as agender or non-binary, what pronouns do you prefer? What pronouns do you use, or do you care?
I personally don't get super hung up on this one a lot. I just think there are better uses of my time in most cases, but respecting people's pronouns is definitely important, I believe. Just because I'm not so,
Adamant on what you use.
Yeah, adamant on like, no, call me that, call me this.
But what do you prefer?
I really have no preference, honestly.
No preference?
They, there, I mean,
In the same way?
he, she, it doesn't really matter.
They, he.
I think a big part of it for me is that because I do drag. So in drag, everyone says she, and all of my friends, for the most part, are drag queens or know me through drag. So I'm always she. But then I go back home or I go to work and I'm he. And really, just like Corin said, I don't really get too hung up on it. It doesn't really throw me off. One thing that I find interesting is that I think as non-binary people have become more prevalent and people talk about it more, like more often than ever before, I'm getting they. Like people who don't know me will just assume like they, or if they know me in drag and then they meet me out of drag, they'll just use they, and I think it's great because
I agree. That's awesome. Like I'm the same way. Ever since like getting to know a lot of non-binary people, I do not assume. Even though you might read a certain way very loudly, I just use they. Sometimes even if like he's okay, I'm like they. 'Cause it's so natural to me, and I would prefer to be referred as they. If you don't know, if you just met me, like that's totally cool. I'm not offended. You know.
Yeah, I've noticed that you do that every time I introduce you to somebody. You automatically call them they.
Yeah, it's like
It's
it's
the
she,
same,
but it's like whatever. They's fine too.
Well, it's the language as we use it more and more. It's becoming more prevalent,
Yeah.
and it's becoming like more natural.
I'm an ESL teacher, and I teach my students like that they is the gender neutral
Cool.
pronoun because it is and it always has been. I mean, if your friend buys you a birthday present, they say, "Oh my God, my best friend bought me a birthday present," and then your friend says, "Oh, what did they get you?"
Uh-huh.
Everyone
Exactly.
would say that, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't just assume the gender of their friend.
Right. That's
So
a good point.
it's not altogether uncommon. Anyhow.
Yeah. So next question: do y'all ever feel misgendered?
Like if somebody calls you like he in drag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know people that do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it just. I'll be honest. I generally don't, but I do. I'm now hyper conscious of things that I wasn't conscious of before. Like when I go to the like fast food and I'm ordering at the drive-through, and they say like, "Oh, like thank you, sir," or sometimes "Thank you, ma'am," and I think I'm really like kind of tuned into that now, whereas it wasn't something I was thinking about before.
Huh.
The drag thing, though, I guess like when I'm in drag, if somebody is like intentionally calling me he as a way to like try to ruffle my feathers or get under my skin, then I have a problem with it, right?
Yeah.
Like a total stranger on the street, like, "Oh, he da 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 da," but for the most part, I don't mind too much.
Yeah.
See, I'll never like if they say like he, I like what he's wearing. You never feel like uncomfortable. It's like I wish he said she.
No, not
Yeah,
really.
so something that Rico and I have to deal with a lot, and we know that a lot of like binary trans people deal with a lot, and non-binary people, is dysphoria, like feeling uncomfortable with certain parts of our bodies and like just certain characteristics about ourselves that we don't feel like we identify with. Do you guys, as non-binary people, like do you ever feel dysphoria about certain parts of your body or certain characteristics about yourself?
Personally, no, but I know that there are people who are non-binary who do.
I would say the majority of the dysphoria that I feel is not related to how I look at my own body or how I identify with my body, but how other people look at my body. Or like, I think being more, again, talking about like masculine and feminine, but being more on the feminine side or being ascribed femininity by, especially like being a male-bodied person who has sex with other male people. There's a lot of homophobia, right? So like, I guess like without talking in circles, the dysphoria I feel is because sometimes you look at yourself and you're like, this is the way I want to look, but I know that this isn't the way that other people want me to look, and that's I guess the dysphoria that I feel. I don't think that it's necessarily akin to like body dysmorphia or like that sort of transgender, like dysmorphia. No, dysphoria.
Dysphoria, yeah.
Dysphoria.
So, do y'all have any issues using public restrooms?
Like, have you guys ever gotten like weird looks walking to the men's room? Like,
Oh yeah, I have a pretty crazy story
Yes,
from
Billy.
Elysium actually. I went into the women's restroom, and actually, there it doesn't really matter which restroom you use. If you prefer that restroom, for the most part, the staff isn't,
This is a bar in Austin, by the way.
Yeah, so
Elysium.
Elysium, it's a local bar here in Austin, and it's a pretty queer space. It's like a goth club on the weeknights. It's a really, really cool area. But I was using the women's restroom, and this woman actually had words for me for using the women's restroom. And that was probably the strangest occurrence I had in the restroom. But other than that, not really. I haven't had any super big problems with it. I mean, and here in Austin, a lot of the public bathrooms are already gender neutral anyway.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
for that.
yeah, I mean,
Do you mind if I ask you what exactly she said, or?
Oh, yeah, she approached me after I exited the stall and said, I just want you to know that some people might be offended that you're coming in here and using this restroom. And, I mean, it was literally in the stall peeing, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right, you know,
I don't even stand to pee, so...
I'm lazy. Why would I?
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't know. It was just very awkward, and I left that bathroom pretty unhappy.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
It's funny, I have the opposite because I always use the men's restroom. I mean, unless they're gender neutral, I just use the men's restroom. Even if I'm in drag, I go in and I use the men's restroom. And that's just my own personal choice. But you know, I will go in there sometimes when I'm really like dragged out, and you get looks like, "Why are you in here? Like, what are you doing in here?"
Even in gay bars?
Even in gay bars, and you know, even some of the looks that I get are from my own drag queen friends. They're like, "What? Why didn't you just use the ladies' bathroom?" And I'm like,
That's
"Well,
interesting.
I personally choose not to. I use the men's bathroom, and the only time that I like intentionally went into the women's restroom was at another bar here in Austin called Cheer Up Charlie's, because in the men's bathroom, the mirror is like literally, it's like a fucking 12 by 8 piece of notebook paper, and I couldn't get ready in it.
Yeah.
And so I went into the women's restroom to get ready, and kind of similar to Corin's story, had a kind of unpleasant encounter with like some of the women using the restroom in there, which, I mean, I'm not here to like tell people, you know, like, this is my bathroom, I'm coming here and I'm gonna use it no matter what. But at the same time, like, Cheer Ups is a queer bar.
I don't exclusively use women's restrooms. I think for me it's very situational. You know, sometimes I do use the men's restroom. So, I mean, that's okay too. It's a place to pee.
Yeah.
You know?
That's all it is.
So do you guys have like issues with people belittling your non-binary identities, like telling you, "Oh, you're not non-binary, that's not a real thing," or stuff like that? Is that something you guys struggle with?
I've personally been very fortunate with the people around me, my circles, and actually never had to really deal with that kind of thing. The closest I would say would probably be like my family, but
So you're out to your family?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I mean, it's not received well, but you know.
Oh,
They
okay.
know.
What about you, Hentai?
I think, so I used to have, I don't actually talk very openly about my gender identity. Very seldom does it come up in conversation. But for a while I had it on my Instagram
Actually, I had no
profile.
idea that you identified as non-binary until
I did, everyone says that. Yeah, everyone says that.
You know.
Well, and a big part of the reason why is because I did have it as it was on my Instagram profile, and I talked, you know, I was very open about talking about my gender identity. And what I realized was more often than not, it just raised more questions than it answered for people, because non-binary is so just, I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't answer any of your questions. You just say, "Oh, I'm non-binary," and someone's, "Oh, what does that mean?" And so I'm gonna have to tell you anyway.
Yeah.
So I ended up, and so I wouldn't say that it was belittled, but you do get a lot of questions because it's not common by any means. And I think for a lot of non-binary people, maybe not myself, but there is a lot of belittling going on. Like, they feel like they're being shot from both sides, so to speak, because especially the older generation is not totally down for it.
Yeah, I've seen that.
There was a big kind of stink in the Austin community because a trans queen, she's a drag queen here in town, posted something on Facebook about saying that non-binary people were just lazy trans people. And so, but here's the thing, and I'm not
That's
defending
not
what she said
okay.
because I don't think it's okay, but she's older and is from a different generation. And so the way that I see it is that for older trans people, they weren't given the choice of non-binary. I mean,
That's true.
there were
That's
very
true.
few options. You either subscribe to one or the other. And so I think when they see our generation, and we're very open and we do whatever the fuck we want with our genders, there may be a little bit of resentment there.
Right. Yeah.
Possibly.
And so I try to be understanding, but yeah, no. So there was a big stink in that because honestly, I feel like the older generation and the younger generation are on completely different pages right now.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually, hopefully.
I would like for there to be more like cross-generational
Yeah.
discussions,
I
but
think with time.
Yeah.
Hopefully. So, do y'all identify as gay? And if you do, isn't gay gendered for men that are attracted to men? It is
Yeah.
tricky. That's why I wanted to ask it.
I'm